Thank you, everyone. Now we're going to get started, start working. Did you like the activity? Yes. Yes. I see that you didn't want to sit up. But that's great. The thing is, and one of the objectives is to create synergies between young people. That's why we also did this activity. So now we're going to divide into the action tracks. Do you remember you fill out a form? Well, okay, now we have sent to the moderators the spreadsheets so we can organize better. I'm going to please ask to the moderators to raise your hands. If you moderate a breakout room, please raise your hands. Great. So you can see them. The moderators of the action track number 1, raise your hand. Okay. The moderators. Ashley, over there. Yes.
This works. I was just wondering if we will have a plenary discussion afterwards, because there are some elements that cross across the 5 action tracks, and I think it's important for us to discuss these elements first before we break out and then take very separate discussions without knowing that there are some overarching topics that we should discuss as youth as well.
Yes, of course, all the action tracks are related. Thank you very much for your question. Now we're going to divide into breakout rooms, and we're going to work with you. We have some questions to work with this, with each action track, and then at the end, we're going to do a takeaway. So we all can share the different discussions we've had in the different action tracks. So please, everyone that has action track number 1, Ashley, she's the moderator of number 1. You can go with her. The moderator of action track number 2, please raise your hand. Is Diana? Yes, Amanda. What? Oh, yes. I don't have it.
And maybe tell them the action track 1 goes there so people...
Yes. Estoy buscando los nombres. Ashley, can you come over here, please? Locate yourself here. So number 1 is here. Yes. The action track number 1 is inclusive, equitable, safe, and healthy schools. ¿Comparece por el grupo la spreadsheet? ¿De todos? ¿De todos? ¿Todas las personas? Compartilo ahí. En el grupo de todos, ¿ya lo hiciste? Pero no de in-person, de todos. You're going to receive in your WhatsApp group, the one of the pre-summit, the spreadsheet with all your names, so you know to which action track you have to go, to which breakout room. I already sent it, but just in case, here with Ashley, he had to come Rabella, Jaha Fabia, Kakuna Beno, Ana Sáenz Tejeda, Taranjit Singh Manchada, Mathilde Boulogne, Rosaline Isara Mansaray, Fatima Altani, Miguel García Domingos, María Francisco Coelho, Mark Devon Maitim, Ana Subra, Maria Nguyen, Peter Franco, Suhail Odam Suhail, Ian De Banda, and Claire Rainwald.
People are not moving.
Yes. Did you understand? Sorry, I don't know if I'm making myself clear. People for action track 1 has to go with Ashley.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Can we all look here first and not be on your phones just for 5 minutes? And please do not speak, because we are just trying to organize the room on the different action tracks. Who signed up for Action Track 1, Inclusive, Safe, Equitable Schools? Please raise your hand. And now please get up and go to this side of the room with Ashley. Ashley, can you put your hand up? Here, yeah. Thank you. All right.
Igual no estaban divididos así, ¿no?
No, pero yo sé que hay gente aquí que se ha puesto, pero no está.
Ah, ok.
Entonces,
Dale. Entonces, go to number
Yeah.
1 with Ashley.
Okay. All right. Action Track 2.
Who signed up for Action Track 2? Please go with Diana. She's standing up.
Action Track 2 is learning and skills for life, work, and sustainable development. At the end of the room. We should have divided the room before. People
Yes.
sat down.
I'm going to go, well,
Yeah, go.
because I'm number 4.
Yeah. Hi everyone. There's not a lot of space in the room, so go all the way to the end, sit around. You can come hear people at the front. You can use this part as well. Feel free. It's quite informal. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of space. Okay. Action Track 3, Teachers, Teaching, and Teaching Profession. Who signed up for that? Over there with Uli at the end at the door. Action Track 3, Teachers, Teaching, and the Teaching Profession. With Uli there at the door. Action Track 4, Digital and Learning and Transformation. Number 5, Financing Education. 5. 5. Here. That's okay. Yeah, which one do you want? 4? It's there in the middle. There, yeah. You see? Oh, I can show you the link. It's like a WhatsApp group that was shared with everybody. You can ask any of the young people that were like online. I don't know. Don't worry about it. Just ask someone of the young people, they will add you. Hi, yes. Okay. It's you. Don't worry. You can sit with the people there. Here. Any questions, you can come to me. Hi. Here. Yeah. Anybody? Are you lost? Okay.
reporter, yes. And I will be serving as your moderator today, okay? So, we want to hear about all your amazing ideas and contributions, experience. We don't have much time, so let's get started with our first question. You can participate fully, or I will say your name. So the first question is, what are you people doing to address the issue described on the action track 2? Describe solutions laid by young people or students which you know about or you are part of. Just for remember, the key issues of Action Track 2 is foundational learning, so from lifelong learning perspective, skills for development and entrepreneurship, and education for sustainable development and environmental education. So, summary.
Hello,
What's your name?
my name is Veronica, joining from Lebanon. Is it a co-founder of Yusuf?
Or they need to disturb the other. Oh yeah, I can just see that.
Outside. Because people are saying they can't hear each other. Marina, can you come out this way so you can help him, please?
No, it's very much are bringing about the spirit of your learning, not only between teachers, but also between educators and young people. organization, I think one of the example of great example. We all know about Florida, about so it's a great example. How do we bring these networks of these structures of collaboration? What else do you think should and how do you think that should take place? What shape of what? And how can you solve that? We said, okay, how the teacher from this grade develop agents, how they can create those crises of how they can and how a different way to solve it. And regarding where to about recognition on different ways, we talk about payment, we talk about price. What other shape ways we can recognize educators? And talking from an academic point of view, how can we recognize teacher in an academic aspect? Because it's about teaching in different countries, the requirements to teach are extremely high. So what type of recognitions they can get from governments in a more academic or training way? Do you know what I'm trying to say with the question? No? Okay. So it depends on the country, but for instance, in Argentina, you study with the it's a teacher school, you get a degree of teacher, which is less than a bachelor's degree. So how you can study, you can be you can have a degree in history, like you have a history, you have to study teachers. Exactly. So no, you can study history teacher, you can be a history degree. Yeah, go ahead. And how can we use incentives in an academic society? Because teachers are always looking for better training, also need teachers to have incentives. How can governments actually create incentives to give those recognitions, to give those opportunities for teachers? Make all the introductions. Because in English, you say it's normal in regular school, but it's not. It's a high school where you graduate with, in high school, you graduate with a teaching degree. For instance, in Argentina, there are different public schools. You study, you do maybe one extra of high school, and you visit your
Hi everyone. Hi everyone. Sorry to interrupt the discussion. We have 5 minutes left. So let's start wrapping up. We have 5 minutes, okay? So sorry. We will make it work. Hi everyone. We have to end. If the Hi everyone. The end. Yeah. Hello? We reached the end of the discussions. Hi. Hi. Hi everyone. The end. Ashley, sorry.
Just because you might be present.
Ashley.
Sorry. We need to get our group to grab a seat. Bert?
Hi everyone.
Love what you said.
Let's stop.
Happy to talk more, but we're being yelled at. Go ahead. Emma, right? Yeah. Yeah, from Geneva.
Are you adding to the WhatsApp?
Oh, yes.
Sorry, this isn't mine. I was just given it.
I can do that, right? So I will send you this link, and it will take you directly to. Okay, so transfer, write your email here, and you receive. Yeah, let's just get everyone to sit down.
Sit down, please. Take your
Back to our places or here? No, back?
yeah.
I guess you can stay here. Stay here. We're gonna find out. Anyway, just send them the screenshot, so. Alright. I'm gonna send them the notes. That's tons. Yeah, so. You get it? Is it one? Yeah, you got it. Okay. Yes. No, I mean, I'm sending you the WhatsApp link on your by email. Yeah. Hello. Welcome. You received it. Hello.
Sebastian, finally they say the report. Finally they say the report. The reporter, please speak.
Aló, aló. Aló, aló.
¿Sé qué en fait?
Aló.
Yo le voy a subir el volumen.
Vale. Hola. 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2.
Mira, ver eso, estoy en la red.
Gracias. Se me quemó el cerebro otra vez. Hola, hola. Hola, hola, hola. Hola, hola. Hello, hello. Hola. Aló, 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 aló.
I can take the picture.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Can you tell people
The volume is better, thank you.
can you
Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. So the rapporteurs after the photo, please come here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. It was a really interesting, inspirational, motivational discussion we had. Thank you so much for being part of that. Now we're going to talk about the key takeaways so we all can share what we discussed in the different breakout rooms. So I'm going to ask the rapporteur of action track number 1 to raise your hand to talk about the key takeaways of the session. Yes.
Sorry, not very clearly hearable. Can you hear me? Thank you, sorry.
Great. I hope you can hear me now, right? The action track one was on the safe schools, making sure that there is an inclusive, safe and healthy schools. And our action track had, young people who are here. And most of the things that we covered, we're discussing on different things young people are doing on addressing these priorities from the action track one. And we had from different countries, from Namibia to Venezuela to Kakuma refugee camp to Ukraine to Europe to to MENA regions. Really had from different wonderful work being done. Some that really stood out is around mental health in schools. How do we make sure that mental health is really being tackled across different countries? Also, different perspective being in the refugee camps, being in the no more school settings. We also talked about issues on what government can do to really put these things in place, and things that really stood out is on data, saying that most of the time you'll find that data is not there, and the young people really highlighting that more strongly, and making sure that we have data and accessible information for young people, and also trying to make sure that we have representation, moving from words and making sure that young people are on the table and not being consulted, but rather being employed in the ministries, being in the entire process, and making sure that they're raising their voices. And I'll keep consolidating all the data and share with you all. But it has been an enriching conversation, and it was so exciting to hear all different work being done around bringing the mental health part, the learners with disabilities, differently abled people who learn differently, trying to hear all different things happening and how young people are taking the first step in addressing that. Yeah, thank you. And if I missed anything, somebody from my action track could maybe add on, but that's all.
Thank you very much. Now the rapporteur of the action track number 2.
Also, other rapporteurs for other action tracks, you can come up already so that we're moving fast. And I'm from Action Track 2, Learning and Skills for Life, Work and Sustainable Development. I'm mindful of time, and so I will just quickly disclaim that we can't share everything that was discussed in the last 30 minutes. And it was very fruitful, so I will emphasize a few points from our group's discussion. So first of all, our youth are doing a lot, and you already know that. But what we will essentially focus on right now is what governments need to do in line with youth actions. And first and foremost, there needs to be better alignment of learning when it comes through the stages of life. It shouldn't, all sectors, whether primary, secondary, tertiary, or after, including informal education, after school programs, need to be in line in what we're trying to achieve, and we're all trying to achieve the same thing. So it's important that we have these regular communications to make sure that we're all aligned and on the same page and working towards the same goals. And these goals include, again, our group is focused on lifelong learning, and lifelong learning is, of course, preparing you for work is one, but it's not all. But again, focusing on work, obviously technology, digital preparation, and of course, ensuring that especially marginalized communities are supported. But again, it's not just work, it's also preparing us for, there's many crises already starting, so mental health is a big issue that we need to make sure is integrated into curriculum, into education to make sure youth are prepared for the future. That's what we're focused on. And last but not least, accountability. We need to ensure that, not my point, but we need to set clear deadlines, as pressure points, which can then be followed through by youth agencies, hopefully with the support of UN agencies as well, like the setting that we're in right now. And no matter who is, at the decision-making table, we need to ensure, again, all sectors are there, but number one, youth have to be represented and make sure that they're not just there as an advisory or sounding board, they're there to actually make meaningful contributions to policies. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ilan. Well, the rapporteur of Action Track number 3.
So for our group, this was a quite, I suppose, like all the rest, challenging exercise. We were 9 members. 4 of the members at the table had a teaching experience. We were from the regions of Europe, Latin America, Africa, and we were missing the Middle East and Asia Pacific region, sadly. We were trying to focus more the conversations on policy recommendations, solutions, less than technical ideas, even though they were part of the discussion. To try to summarize to you, I would highlight that our group focused on how teachers' mental health and programs that are addressing this are taking into account at the governance and all the levels, since school, regional, national, etc. How to improve that for all the teachers and their well-being. More peer learning between the teachers on how they exchange their best practices, challenges. There was a call to create a mechanism on how we also measure all of this, and we organize all of this in the different, at least, countries and regions where we were all coming from. Those are the table. There was also mentioned that the skills and expertise from students should also, since we were trying to make the focus also with young people, should also be taking a leading role in the teaching role, and they shouldn't be separated, like we, even in how we talk and address these actors, we do. It was very, very interesting how a teacher that was at our table mentioned how we actually should move on of these terms, teachers and students, and we shouldn't be separating that, and that was a fascinating point of discussion. Sorry, I'll just end with 2 more. That was also a great proposal of highlighting how organizations such as this one that's trying to start in some of the decision-making of UNESCO, which is the SDG for Youth Network, maybe models like this one, and I'm sure we have so many examples in all the countries, can be implemented more with having young people and teachers being part of these types of networks at local, regional, and national levels. And lastly, we need to break the bureaucracies in order to engage more young people and teachers in all the decision making. And I would leave it to that, and hopefully you can read more later.
Thank you very much, Sofia. And now the rapporteur of Action Track number 4, Linda.
Good morning. Yes, my name is Linda, and I'm happy to be the rapporteur for Action Track 4. Well, ours was on digital learning and transformation, and we saw how COVID-19 exposed the digital divide and inequalities globally. So young people for this action track were just thinking of the different ways every young person, youth, children, persons with disabilities can access digital learning going forward. In the event that we're faced with future pandemics and there's no in-person learning, how do we ensure that learning never stops for every young person? So some of the important asks from this action track are: young people are requesting that government set up set up centers in schools, in communities that are resourced, that every young person can, even if they don't have electricity in their homes, but can go to these centers and access education and access learning. The other ask is funding youth-led initiatives. So many young people here are doing tremendous work in their given communities. Some young people from Iceland, from one of the amazing countries I have forgotten, fundraised for computers for people in their respective communities, but they could do so little because they didn't have money. So they're asking for governments to work with young people and fund initiatives to promote digital learning and literacy in their respective countries. There's another ask on government conducting national literacy trainings, because not all of us know how to use phones. Not all of us know how to use laptops. So there's need to conduct the national trainings on digital literacy and how to use phones and all these other gadgets, which is important. The other important ask is accountability. One of my colleagues from Nigeria, I think, mentioned the fact that during COVID-19, many African countries, for example, received funding to either provide laptops or internet for children. But that didn't happen. So how do we hold our governments accountable for all these resources they received, for all this money they received? So accountability is very, very important, and that's one of the important asks from this working group, from this action track. And the final one is designing integrated connectivity approaches and systems that cater for persons of different abilities. I remember one of us raised the concern of some of the members, some of the children having disabilities and were not able to learn during COVID-19. So how do we ensure that technology actually works for everybody? That someone with a visual impairment can continue learning, that somebody with a hearing impairment can continue learning. And one of the important asks is for governments to design integrated connectivity approaches and systems that work for everybody. Athena, do you want to add something on that?
I think you've said pretty much everything. I would just say that, yeah, as you said, the key term to finalize this is a user-centered approach, which leaves no one behind.
Thank you very much. And now, rapporteur of action track number 5.
That would be me here, Hector. Yes, so we were talking about financing of education. What we discussed was that we need sustainable, long-term, and also gender-responsive solution to financing of education, and this, in our eyes, can only be achieved through a strong public education sector. So we discussed a lot of private sector initiatives and how the private sector is engaging in financing education. And we don't think that we shouldn't collaborate with the private sector, but we have an agreement that what we need is an accountable private sector. And how does this sector jump into financing of education? Well, they do that by paying their taxes and not avoiding any kind of taxes. So what we need is to strengthen the national tax system, and we talked a lot about progressive taxing, which is not a reality in low and middle income countries at the moment, and also on having an understanding that wealth should also be taxed, not just only income, and this applies to corporations. Also, we talked a little bit about international coordination to stop illicit capital flows and pushing forward and stronger for an international convention on taxes. At the same time, when we see that if the private sector is paying their taxes and is fulfilling their obligations, there is still one more step that we need to take, and that is talking about for-profit actors within the education system. And in line with this year's Global Education Monitoring Report, we believe that it's a long-standing demand now that for-profit actors in education should be at least regulated, but in a perfect scenario, they should be banned from the education sector, because the goal with education should be access for everyone and quality education, not for people to make profit out of a basic human right. And lastly, we talked also about advocacy and who takes responsibility. How can we advocate for better financing? And in this regard, we talked about a long time ignored actor within national systems and also, unfortunately, within UNESCO in many cases. And it's the biggest stakeholder group that we have within education, and that is student representatives worldwide. So we believe that this youth declaration must demand for democratic student unions to be recognized as an independent stakeholder, because they have very different experiences from youth groups. And this doesn't mean that youth groups should be excluded, but that means that within UNESCO, we should always have both youth and democratic student unions at every table whenever we discuss education. Youth cannot talk on behalf of students, and students cannot talk on behalf of youth. And if we manage to move this advocacy effort and change the financing of education, we see that a priority for where this money should go is education in emergencies. There was a comment, we had a colleague who was coming from Ukraine. She was a student in Ukraine, and it is very clear that our national systems are not prepared to manage crisis and conflict. So if we have better financing, we hope that our systems will be better prepared to address these issues whenever they emerge.
Thank you very much to all the rapporteurs. Yes, a question?
Question slash a bit of a notion for the action track 2, learning skills for life and work and sustainable development. I think we missed out on many of the core points that were being discussed. The reason why I want to bring it up, because we're not fully understanding how the declaration will then actually come to be. So if these core points are not mentioned here, we're a bit afraid that they won't make it into the actual declaration. That's quality climate education. We've been talking a lot about that. The need to do that on all levels of education, cross-sectorally. We were talking about active citizenship, about human rights education, about education on peace building, on sexual health and reproductive health education, as well as access to education for refugee students and recognition of non-formal learning, as well as, and there was a lot of commitment to that, the role of democratic student unions in decision making. So we would like to have that recognized and put into the draft. Thank you very much.
Yes, Shama, the question, and then I will respond.
It's not a question, I just want to second that. Once this transfer.
Yes, really important. Well, I know in order to address your questions, don't worry that all the rapporteurs take notes of everything, but this is not all the only consultations. This is the first in-person consultation, but in order to include more voices and a diversity of voices, and not only our voices as privileged young people that are able to be here, we will also organize online consultations, so don't worry about that. Also, as Yahadma explained at the beginning, we're also taking youth declaration that's already been made in order to feed this youth declaration at the end, and there's not still a draft. This is the first part of the process, this is the beginning, but the draft has to be presented in September for the Transforming Education Summit.
One more question regarding the process. So I understand that after this consultation, probably a few more, there will be a zero draft put together. that then supposedly evolves with each consultation. What will be the accountability framework, and how will we have access to see how this draft is evolving, and what will be the options for representatives and colleagues here to provide written input? How is that going to work? So how will the draft develop, and what's the process that you're proposing?
Yes. Well, the office that is in charge of that is the UN Secretary General's Envoy on Youth Office, and they contracted a person specifically for this task to write the Youth Declaration. But we will have more news about the other online consultations, and if there's possibility to send a draft or anything, that's important. We will add more news of that when we have more clarity on the process. But because, as I just mentioned, this is only the beginning. I know that all of you are really worried about the inputs and the things that are going to be stated there, but don't worry that there's other parts of the process that still doesn't begin to being organized. So we will do other stages in order to do that. And in order to close the session, because we have to leave like 10 minutes ago, but to close the session, thank you very much to all the rapporteurs, and thank you very much to all of you for being here. It was really inspiring to hear all of you, the diversity of the ideas you have and experiences you have from your countries, because we have different situations, different problematics, different priorities. It was really inspiring to hear from you, and this declaration, we are not ending just yet. And the youth declaration is really important because it's the way we can include youth voices, and we can demand accountability, as all of you said, in all of the breakout rooms, and as all the rapporteurs mentioned, we can ensure accountability from our stakeholders and our governments, and because we know that we cannot achieve SDG 4 if we don't include young people. But another thing that is really important is that the other parts of the process, this is only the beginning, but I really urge you to stay connected and to stay engaged in the other online consultations. As soon as we have any news, we'll reach out to you, because the main thing of this is to include more young people, to have more voices, for this youth declaration to actually be representative. But another important thing is not only to be engaged in the process of this youth declaration that has to be presented in September, but another important thing is that all of us are really we are already education advocates, but when we always talk about creating a new social contract for education and to create a movement, and we all know that in order to create changes, we need demand. So we need for more young people to join us. Then it's really important to think about what we're going to do when we go out of there, when the Purpose Summit ends, what we're going to do when we go back to our countries, what we're going to do on our social media, in our communities, on the reach we have to other young people. We need for more young people to join us, because we need to create a global movement. If we don't do that, our voices won't be louder enough in order for stakeholders to actually listen to us, but not listen only to our voices or our recommendations, but also include us in the different process of transforming education. Because if that doesn't happen, we will continue to have educational policies that are not sustainable in time, and we'll have another crisis, and we will never be able to achieve access to quality education for all. So thank you very much.
So we need to leave, but I also want to share one last thing very shortly. It may seem that we are quite already organized and very well structured in the SDG for Youth Network, but we're working on it. This just started some months ago. So many of us, like I'm part of the SDG for Youth Network, we're still figuring it out. And we have so much learned from your organizations, from many student organizations, so please connect. This is the first time that we are all here. There's a WhatsApp group. You should all be on that WhatsApp group, please. And please help us, also the SDG for Youth Network, so we can organize ourselves. It's very important what some people were asking like what are the next steps and how are things are gonna get done. Like not even everyone in the SDG for Youth network has all that information. We're just getting all that information at the moment, and we all would like very much to be super clear with all of you on how that's going to be happening, exactly at what time, when are you going to get the invitation. So please bear with us, but also push us and help us organize ourselves, and you're welcome to join. And yeah, so we just started some months ago, so please let's just keep connected, and thank you.